Hi beautiful people, I hope you guys doing super well. I'm sending you so much love from the Rockhamptons. We are at the moment house sitting here, and I would love to talk with you today about a little bit about my own story and also what it feels like to start dreaming again, and what is actually possible once we go for our dreams and we make our dreams a reality. So I want to tell you a little bit about my background. So for those who don't know me, I'm Renata. I'm a spiritual empowerment coach and intuitive healer, and I'm originally from Germany. So I grew up in Germany. I'm living now in Australia, and yeah, you might wonder, how did I get here where I am right now, and living in Australia, working my own business, and it's been quite a journey, I have to tell you that. So yeah, I grew up in Germany, and I grew up in a quite dysfunctional family. My family didn't have much money at all. And I remember I was really sensitive as a child. I didn't really speak much. And I was really shy. And a lot of people wouldn't actually believe me when I tell them that I was really shy, because now I'm really confident. I'm showing up online, on camera. I'm having my own podcast. But I just want to tell you, how I got here was a bumpy road, and it wasn't easy. And I think I want to just spread a bit awareness that, sometimes you have to go through really hard things in your life, but they make you who you are right now, and they will change your life forever. So, as a young child, I didn't have many friends at school. I wasn't really popular at all. And then, I remember, I think it was 2016 when I graduated from high school. I had my A-levels, and for the first time in my life, I flew to New Zealand, and that was something mind-blowing that was always on my mind. I always wanted to go traveling after my A-levels, and I made that come true, and it was truly amazing. One of my best years of my life, I would say. And then I met one of my ex-partners there, and we had like a 5-year relationship. So, and then I remember, I think it was 2018, I was still in traveling mode, and I became a flight attendant. I traveled the world even more, and that seemed for me so impossible in my mind that I think in the age of 19, I had the opportunity to see the Dominican Republic. I flew to South Africa, I flew to Mauritius, to the Maldives, and I could spend time there for free. It was, an incredible time. But I hit rock bottom in 2018. I was just working as a flight attendant for about 1.5 years, and I just remember I came back home. I was so burned out, and I was just crying so much. It was a really hard and tough time for me personally. And then I remember a friend of mine recommended me a podcast. So I never listened to podcasts before, and it was the first time I listened to podcasts. And I listened to Laura Seiler, and she has an incredible German podcast, and she talked about high sensitivity. And for some reason, something within me resonated with that term. So it made so much sense to me when she described highly sensitive people and their traits. I just had this big realization that I'm a highly sensitive person, and I didn't know that. And it made so much sense to me. And that explained so many things for me, why I was so sensitive and why I was so overwhelmed easily. So when you're a highly sensitive person, you get overstimulated easily by noises, by smells, by lots of people, so groups of people. And I was working on an airplane, right? So I got overwhelmed easily. Oh my God, it was I remember I had these moments when I was in the airplane, I was up in the air, and I just had the thought that I will never get there out alive. And that we will crash, and there were just so many energies in an airplane. And then I found out that I have that I take on other energies, that I'm empath as well, and I just feel the feelings from other people, and that absolutely blew my mind. I didn't know that I was so high sensitive, and I was an empath. Anyway, I took my first self-help course after listening to a podcast. Took my first self-help course, and after that self-help course, everything changed for me. My whole life changed. I think it was about 21 days, but I did it over 4 months, and my life totally changed. And I just had this desire within me to start my own podcast. And for me, that was so big. It was so big to think that, oh my God, having my own podcast? Are you crazy, Renata? Are you crazy? You can never do that. And I just remember that I thought, there are already so many podcasts out there. Who am I to start a podcast? It's already way too late. And so I didn't start my podcast back then, but I still had this desire within me, and I knew one day I'm going to start my podcast. I just don't know how. I always thought it's way too complicated and all the technical stuff, and I was actually wishing that someone will help me to start my own podcast, right? And then I quit my flight attendant job. It was just way too stressful for me. And then I decided to go to India and do a yoga teacher training for 1 month. This yoga teacher training up-leveled me. It was incredible. I had so much more confidence after that, but also I was so much more sensitive to energies. And after this yoga teacher training, I flew to Canada with my ex-partner, and we did a work and travel year there. And I think Canada also changed so many things for me. And then beginning of 2019, a friend of mine was starting his own podcast, and I just got so inspired again to start my own podcast. So I tried to purchase a course how to start your own podcast, but to be honest, it didn't really help me. And then I just self-taught how to do a podcast, how to start my own podcast, how to record, where to upload my podcast. Hi Anthony, thanks for watching. So I'm just talking about my own story and how I became a podcaster now, and how I have this incredible life right now. And anyway, so I started my own podcast. I taught myself everything, and it wasn't easy, I have to say. It wasn't easy at all. But then I recorded my own podcast. I bought a microphone, and I just did it. I just started my own podcast, something I never thought I would do, but I just did it. And it was really incredible. I got so much good feedback. And I have to say, I was so scared. I was so afraid to put myself out there. And I think for everyone who puts themselves out there with their own business knows that feeling. Just knows how vulnerable it is to share yourself online, to share what you're doing. And anyway, I found that podcasting is an incredible way to share what's on my heart, to share my mission with the world, to share my message with the world. And especially if you're a highly sensitive person, because you don't actually have to show your face in front of the camera, you can just record yourself. And to be honest, it took so much practice. It took so much practice for me to speak fluently and to speak really confidently now on camera. And for me, the first step was having my own podcast and lots of practice of talking. It took me so long, I tell you that. You have done an amazing job. Always be who you are in life. Oh, thanks, Anthony. I will definitely not change who I am right now. And not for anyone else. That's for sure. And so I just want to tell people out there, I feel you, when you put yourself out there online with your own podcast, with your own online business. It's not easy. It is not easy. And but I also want to tell you how many incredible things can come out when you put yourself out there. And just imagine for a moment what can happen. What amazing, incredible things can actually happen in your life. So it was so incredible because when I did my own podcast, so many friends, they listened to my podcast, even my family listened to my podcast, and I was really scared of what they might think of me. But I got so much good feedback. And I started to interview people on my podcast, and I just had beautiful connections. I met beautiful souls through podcasting, and so many doors opened for me just because I took that step to start my own podcast. And then I met my first business coach through podcasting. I interviewed her on money mindset, and then she helped me to start my own online business, which I thought, oh my God, that's already the next step, but it's so scary. Maybe you can hear the birds in the background. The kookaburras, they're really loud here, but I love them, they're so cute. Anyway, so she helped me with starting my own business, right? And then I always thought that I need to put a podcast episode out there every week. Every week I have to put myself out there. And I went into this hustling mode, and I did way too much for my podcast. I was stressing myself out. And nowadays I do podcasting so differently. So I have an intuitive business right now. And my feminine energy leads the way for me. So I tapped into my feminine energy. I worked on my masculine and feminine energies. And now I'm creating podcast episodes out of excitement and joy and pleasure. And instead of thinking, I have to put myself out there, I have to come up with a podcast episode. And I think that's not the way. Whatever you're creating, to put pressure on yourself, because not many great ideas can come out when you're putting yourself under pressure, when you're stressed out, when you're in hustling mode. And just beautiful things can happen when you just relax and you drop back into your body's wisdom and you just let the ideas come to you. Anyway, so I have so much podcast experience. I interviewed so many people. I went from hustling mode to flow mode in my podcast, and I have so much knowledge to share. And also what I want to share with you too, it was 1.5 years ago, I worked for a German podcast for 6 months. And just because I had already so much experience with podcasting, having my own podcast, and then I had the opportunity to work for another podcast that is incredible. Something that I would have never thought is possible. And I was an interviewer for a German podcast. It was about relationships. It was pretty cool, actually. And then I changed my whole podcast. So I started in German. Now I have an English podcast. I changed my name twice. And I think so many people out there who are starting out, who want to start out, they're so overwhelmed with so much information. They don't know how to really start their own podcast, where to start. And I think a lot of them get really stressed out with constantly putting themselves out there. And that's where I'm coming in right now. So, I'm helping now highly sensitive women who are entrepreneurs, they're having their own business and they would love to start their own podcast. And by helping them to start their own podcast helps them to launch their own podcast. And I think for me, as a highly sensitive person, I just know how overwhelming it is, to put yourself out there and to speak your own truth. So I'm helping women to reclaim their voice, speak their own truth, find their voice through podcasting. And I believe I have so much knowledge. So 2 years of podcast knowledge, having my own podcast, working for another podcast for 6 months. And then it is so incredible. Yesterday, I became a team member for one of my business coaches. So cool. And I'm working now for her own podcast. So I'm helping her with her podcast. I'm editing her podcast episodes. And I'm so excited to be part of this. And it is just amazing. Once you start to put yourself out there, once you start to, go for your dreams, you do incredible, impossible things, and magical things magical things are coming to you. You create miracles, literally. When someone would have said to me 2 years ago how my life would look like right now, I would have said, no. How crazy are you? I can never have my own podcast. I can never speak English on a podcast. And English is not my mother language. German is my mother language. And I would have told them, no, I can't do this at all. That I worked for another podcast for 6 months. No. And now I'm working for someone else. So I just want to expand your mind here a bit and what is possible for you in this lifetime. You can create miracles. You can walk. You can be magic on legs. And just imagine for a moment how amazing your life could look like if you just create what you desire and you just go for your desires no matter what. Although you have so many fears, maybe you have also fears about all this technical stuff, which I can totally understand. It is really overwhelming at the beginning, but it's incredible what can happen. And I hope you can tap into this magic here a little bit with me while I'm talking, and you're just trying to imagine what else is possible for you. What else is possible for you? What else is possible for your family when you change? And what else is possible for, the communities in this world when you change? Because you will also affect other people around you, and that is like a ripple effect. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you, that anything is possible. You can change your life in 1 second. And you make the rules. You make the rules. You are the leader of your own life. No one is leading your life. You are leading your life. And I hope that was helpful to you. Let me know in the comments. I'm sending you so much love. And talk to you soon.